Ndị be anyị ekenekwanụ m unu. Anyị sị ka ọ mara na anyị na mma na-eke, anyị sị ka ọ mara anyị mma na orie, anyị sịkwa ka ọ mara anyị mma na afọ, ka ọ makwara na anyị mma na nkwọ, anyị sị ka nke onye chiri ya zerụkwa. Ebe anyị si were otere ya bụ ozi n'ụbọchị nke taa bụ Eastern News 24. Ya bụ ozi bụ gbasara maka ya bụ ife na-eme na obodo nọ n'ime ya adịnwere ụwa na-azọ n'ala Igbo. Ozi a bụ according to the Biafran activist wetara ya n'iru akwụkwọ n'ụbọchị nke taa. As he quotes, breaking news. Injustice against the people of Southeast have triggered the global outrage as top activists stood up, called for Nnamdi Kanu's release and demands for Biafra Referendum. Hear the news in details. All right, Yabozibo, according to the activists who tell you over to you, sir.
According to Nnamdi Kanu and the IPOB movement, an independent Biafra nation would have had a population of 61.3 million people and 167,284 square kilometers of lands. I repeat, it would have been 61.3 million people and 167,284 kilometers of lands. This is what it would mean in respect of the country of Nigeria today. It would mean 28.29% of Nigeria's population would have been gone, and 18.11% of Nigeria's total lands would have also been gone. Don't fight me. I'm only the analytic guy. An independent Biafra, if it were successful, would have been bigger than 20 African countries, which would include Tunisia and Sierra Leone and Malawi, ladies and gentlemen. It would have been identical to the following African countries I'm going to mention, all combined. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to the names.
Please, I beg you to listen to this, please.
Has been sentenced to life imprisonment, ladies and gentlemen. He was sentenced on the 20th November 2025 in a federal high court in Abuja by Judge James Omotosho on treason and terrorism counts. For those who may be hearing his name for the first time, Nnamdi Kanu is and was the leader of IPOB, which is Indigenous People of Biafra Movement, which is a separatist movement pushing for the independence of Biafra. He wants the Igbos and some other nearby tribes to break away from Nigeria. So he was arrested by the Nigerian government and tried on treason charges. The trial has ended, ladies and gentlemen, and he's been found guilty. And the prosecutors actually, on this case, wanted the death penalty for him. But the judge thought differently. The judge said he tempered justice with mercy, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, these were some of the words of the judge when he read the verdict. And I quote, "The death penalty is now being frowned upon by the international community. Consequently, in the interest of justice, I hereby sentence the convict to life imprisonment." End of quote. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a sad moment for a man who has been fighting in the last 2 decades against the marginalization and freedom of Biafra. It was a very sorrowful day. The verdict, however, was read on 7 counts, which 4 of them involved life imprisonment, all because he attempted to break Nigeria in 2. Let me give you a few facts about the whole story. Nnamdi Kanu's mission was for the independence of between 11 to 13 states in Nigeria. Pay attention. These states include Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, Imo, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Rivers State, Delta, Benue, talking about Igede areas, and Koji, talking about Igala areas. Ladies and gentlemen, when you put this in the context of what Biafra could become outside of Nigeria, according to Nnamdi Kanu and the IPOB movement, an independent Biafra nation would have had a population of 61.3 million people and 167,284 square kilometers of lands. I repeat, it would have been 61.3 million people and 167,284 kilometers of lands. This is what it would mean in respect of the country of Nigeria today. It would mean 28.29% of Nigeria's population would have been gone, and 18.11% of Nigeria's total lands would have also been gone. Don't fight me. I'm only the analytic guy. An independent Biafra, if it were successful, would have been bigger than 20 African countries, which would include Tunisia and Sierra Leone and Malawi, ladies and gentlemen. It would have been identical to the following African countries I'm going to mention, all combined. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to the names: Seychelles Island, Sao Tome and Principe, Mauritius, Comoros, Cabo Verde, Gambia, Eswatini, Djibouti, Rwanda, Burundi, Equatorial Guinea, and Lesotho, all combined. That's how big it could be. And that was what was the threat the federal government saw coming. And that was what the Federal Court of Nigeria has sentenced Nnamdi Kanu over. And in terms of resources, that would have been the end of Nigeria's access to oil and gas. Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a small thing I'm talking about. The following states in Nigeria account for the overwhelming majority of Nigeria's petroleum production. Pay attention: Rivers State, Akwa Ibom, Delta, Bayelsa, Edo, Imo, Abia State, all of which are part of the states described as part of Biafra. That would have been the end of Nigeria's economy as we know it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the very reason why the federal government of Nigeria had to dedicate more time attacking that movement than other movements that are breathing chaos and terror on the country. Yeah, the oil and gas cannot be tempered with. That is what the Nigerian government is trying to say. But lives can be tempered with. But it's not over, ladies and gentlemen. Nnamdi Kanu and his team of lawyers still have the option to appeal in 90 days in court, in the Supreme Court. It is, however, interesting to watch how the Nigerian federal government have been able to stay consistent on this case for the last 10 years in its 2 arrests and trial, but cannot find the same energy to go after the real everyday terrorists of Nigeria. I mean, think about it. Every day in Nigeria, there are people who have devoted their time and resources to killing civilians, mothers, children, kidnapping and destroying farms, which videos are in circulation all over the place. How is it that those people who want to capture the country to establish their ideology are still walking free men, or are sometimes being negotiated with, but a man who also tried to break the country in less brutal fashion is behind bars? Is it because it's easier for the system to put the clamp on him because he is an individual? Or could it be because he is not as ruthless in his approach like the other groups? Ladies and gentlemen, one group wants to capture the country and establish their ideology, and this man wants to break the country in 2. Is it not one in the same thing? Does it not border on the sovereignty of the country altogether? Ladies and gentlemen, he may be sentenced today, but I really don't think this is where the story ends. I foresee an appeal coming and the whole case being reopened in the Supreme Court of Nigeria. But most importantly, I foresee something bigger and more radical rise up out of this situation. Something that has the potential to destabilize the fairly peaceful southern part of Nigeria. Nigeria, Nigeria, Nigeria. Your troubles are many because you are born great. That is an obvious truth. There is not a single great country in the world that's large in size that has had it easy when it comes to uniting the people. That is truth. So I totally understand what's going on in that country. The challenge, however, is this, ladies and gentlemen. In the case of Nigeria, we don't see that one person who has the ability to tie the loose ends. In the case of India, ladies and gentlemen, Sardar Patel is credited for uniting the modern day India after independence. And Mao Zedong is mentioned in the case of China. And so is Abraham Lincoln for the United States when it came close to splitting. Putin is mentioned for modern day Russia. And that's what you need, Nigeria. A unifier who is trusted but firm, upright, patriotic, but also feared. And it's not what you have today, Nigeria. Nigeria's success, to me, will have a huge impact on all of Africa. And so will its demise. For those who wonder why I spend time talking about Nigeria so much, perhaps you guys have never critically analyzed the makeup of West Africa. Do you know that if things fall apart in Nigeria, their population will easily trump every country in West Africa in a matter of weeks? In weeks. Benin is 40 million. Togo is 9.6 million. Ghana may be 35 million. Ivory Coast is 32.7 million. Nigeria alone is 237 million population. Nigeria's population is almost half of the total population of all West African countries' population combined. Let that sink in. If you don't live in West Africa, maybe you shouldn't be bothered. But if you live in West Africa, especially in Ghana and in Cameroon, you better wish them well, because these are the two countries in Africa where Nigerian nationals love to travel to the most. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. Nnamdi Kanu is a representation of all the Igbos I know personally. Every one of them is of the view that they aren't part of Nigeria. Some even claim there is a legal document that was signed between the British colonizers and the Biafra state even before Nigeria gained their independence, which I cannot say I have seen. They claim that document was for 100 years, which elapsed some years back, and for that reason they want their independence. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't seen any such document, even though it's on the lips of Igbos. But I know one thing for certain. As the population grows across Africa, ladies and gentlemen, if politicians don't get their acts together and create wealth for all the people, especially for the people of the provinces, states, and regions whose resources are being exploited, things like these will become common, not just in Nigeria, but in different parts of Africa. Mark my words.
Thank you very much, my dear brother, for that wonderful analysis. But please, I want to beg you to pay attention to this video I'm going to play for you now, because this video explains a lot of things that people have been saying. I've had so many people come out to say, oh, we are fighting for Biafra because you have oil in your region, and so you want to take all the oil and leave Nigeria without anything, and so on and so forth. People have said a lot of things about the resources in the East. Please, I will beg you to listen to Nnamdi Kanu. It wouldn't be good if you listen to one part and you didn't listen to the other part. So please, I want to beg you to listen to Nnamdi Kanu and hear what he said about the resources in the East and this whole thing. Of course, you know that Nigeria was created by one man called Lord Lugard in 1914. Well, I wouldn't give you that history here. In 1914, Nigeria was created. So please, I want to beg you to listen to Nnamdi Kanu and hear what he said about all these things that people have been saying about the Biafra and the Nigeria and even the resources in Biafra land. So please, I want to beg you one more time to listen to him so that you can make the judgment right.
There are two things plaguing them in the zoo: lies and deceit. If not for the coming of IPOB, of Radio Biafra, all of you would have lived and died in the ignorance that Ojukwu caused a war. That's what they were writing. Britain helped them to write it. Ojukwu was a rebel, a secessionist, because we had no media. That is why they're paying Facebook billions upon billions of US dollars to stop this truth from coming out. Did Ojukwu cause any war? Gowon is alive, go and ask him. Did Ojukwu cause any war? Ojukwu went and negotiated restructuring with you. In Aburi, you came back, Britain told you not to agree because Britain realized that all the component units of Britain knows that if you go back to regionalism, you have economic growth. The country will do very well. But Britain doesn't want it. That was why they even instigated the Nzogbu, so-called Nzogbu, saying they will bring Awolowo to become the head of state. They knew what was going to happen. They wanted to truncate the economic miracle of Dr. Michael Opara. What I'm telling you are fast. Go and investigate for yourself. In the East, you had the fastest growing economy in the whole world, over 40% every year. In the West, Awolowo was performing his own miracle as well. Even in the North, Ahmadu Bello and Tafawa Balewa were doing very well. You had all those massive industries in the North. You even had Alamajiris that were employed in the North, meaningfully employed, gainfully employed. They were all doing very well. Britain said, no, for us to control these people, we need to impoverish them. Let us introduce this war. There was a coup by Nzogbu. And after that, there was the massacre of, as usual, massacre of our people in the North. Ojukwu said, I have to secure my land and my people. They said, no, let's go to Aburi to discuss it. Ojukwu went to Aburi and agreed, restructuring. That's something now you're asking for. To tell you how foolish Nigerians are. They're very foolish. That same nonsense you're asking for now was discussed many years ago. Ojukwu sat down in Aburi with Gowon and decided that regionalism was the best way forward, restructuring, going back to who you were, 1963 Constitution, 1963 Constitution. Be on your own and pay tax to the central government, as they have in America, as they have even in Britain. Britain, you have Scotland that is almost independent, Wales, the same thing, everybody is free, but Britain doesn't want the same thing they're enjoying to happen in Nigeria. Why? Ask yourself that question. Anybody telling you about one Nigeria is your enemy. I'll prove it to you now. Ojukwu negotiated devolution, regionalism. The North will be on their own, the West on their own, even Middle Belt on their, Midwest on their own, and then the East on their own. It's the same one Nigeria. On their way to the airport, before they boarded the aircraft, a call came from Lagos, from the British High Commissioner in Lagos, to Gowon, telling Gowon not to agree. After having signed the agreement, that same Gowon you're looking at today, God kept me alive so that he can witness the destruction he will bring upon that very zoo called Nigeria. Gowon said no. Do you know all the journalists in Nigeria, none of them have ever gone to Gowon to ask him, why did he say no to Aburi? Aburi was restructuring. None of those agitating for restructuring right now has ever gone to Gowon or gone to Nigeria to say, but Ojukwu negotiated restructuring. What happened? They came back and they said no. Ojukwu said, okay, so you want to continue to kill my people all over the place? No. Because of that, I'll declare Biafra. Today, they have brainwashed all of you with the perverse notion and thinking that somehow Ojukwu is responsible for causing a war, when opposite is the case. If not now, that after many years of hammering on this very topic, it has now sunk into the skull of the people that Gowon was the aggressor, not Ojukwu. That's how Nigeria is. Always blaming the victim. And we lost over 5 million people during that very genocidal war. They killed over 5 million Biafrans. They wanted to wipe us away from the face of this very earth. But we survived it. And we are here today. Those they gave birth to, they have come. And this time with a wrath that you cannot even begin to imagine.
What is wrong with the brain of a black man? How can I secede? I am older than something you're telling me to say I'm seceding from. My father, my mother, my grandparents, all of my uncles, they're older than Nigeria. Nigeria is only older than me by only 7 years. I am older than, my people, my uncles are older than Nigeria. How can they secede from something that they're older than? So who were they before this secession rubbish came into being in 1960? Do you see how you people denigrate yourselves? Do you see how you insult yourselves? Do you see how you make a mockery of your education? Secessionist. Seceding from what? Something a white man created for his own amusement. How about my grandparents? How about my ancestors? Where are they from, I ask you? I ask you, where are my ancestors from? I am seceding from something that was formed only in 1960. The entire cabinet of Nigeria is older than Nigeria. Who were they before Nigeria was formed in 1960? I'm asking you, talking about secession. I'm asking you a simple question. Can you answer it? You cannot answer because you're black, you're stupid, you're idiotic, you have no brain. You cannot answer it. Can you? How can I secede from something that was born in 1960? God have mercy upon your ignorant souls, you black people. You are a shame, you're a disgrace to even your own selves. Secession. Seceding from what? I'm asking you. Something a white man created, and you're not even ashamed of yourself to use the word secession. Mad people everywhere. Brad. That's how they deceive you. The day they come to take your land, you'll be crying like a little baby. The history of Hausa people are there to remind you how not to treat the Fulani. The history of the Baki people is there. The history of Nupe people is there. The history of the Bachama people, they are there for you to see, to learn from. You have history that you may learn. The history of Afonja in Yoruba land is there for you to learn how the Fulanis behave. But idiotically, you will never understand because you're black and you're useless. You are created by a white man. Nigeria is a product, is a racist product of a white man. You idiots, understand it for once. I have a few announcements to make to more than anybody else. Now, if those people they are sending to come down to our land, those 200 soldiers are there to kill their own fellow Fulani heads, but we know they cannot. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that we know the forest where Fulani headsmen are camped? We know when they are coming to villages to attack. Have you ever asked yourself, a Fulani headsman of over, say, 80 people going into a village to murder people? They are retreating. There are police stations along the way. Have you ever asked, have you zoo people, zoo animals, Nigerians, have you ever asked yourself, why is it difficult for the police or the army to give chase after Fulani bandits and killers, after they must have sacked the village? Why are they not doing it? I don't, sometimes they said God made man in his own image. In other words, giving us the ability to be able to reason and to discern. And I'm asking you this evening, for those who are listening to me, I'm asking you, have you ever actually sat down? It's not difficult. I'm not asking you to do a very difficult analysis of a complex situation or an equation. First, ask yourself, this village has been attacked by Fulani. That village, why don't they deploy helicopter gunships to go and look for them? Why is it, have you ever heard before that after an attack on a village by Fulani headsmen, that the police gave them chase on the army? Have you ever heard that before? Simple question. I'm putting this question to all the chief justices and judges of all the Biafran states. Those of you holding Biafrans, sending them to Abuja to be killed by a Fulani Janjaweed. I'm asking you a simple question. All these years you've been hearing about Fulani headsmen attack in this village, in that village. I am asking you, every time, I am asking you, all the time, every time you hear about all these things, have you ever heard that 82 Division, Enugu, are now chasing those headsmen that came to Zowan and killed people? Have you ever heard, after the massacre in Bende, that somehow Ohafia mobilized, or OP is mobilized? Have you ever heard that headsmen are being pursued by the army or the police after an attack on a village? It's a simple question. Any day you can get your brain around this. Any day, believe you me, any day you sit down and you think about what I've just said now, you hate Nigeria more than I hate Nigeria. A land brimming with hypocrites, unrepentant hypocrites, evil people. Army are busy attacking villagers, defending themselves. None of you can reason. None of you can think and ask yourself, but so that what it means is that all these people, Fulani killers, that what they're doing is legitimate. That's what you're saying by your silence. That's what it means. That is why when I read Zoo newspapers, when I read their commentators or people talking about Nigeria, I laugh at them. Do you know why I laugh at them? Because they are very, very foolish. I have never heard before that the army attacked any camp run by bandits. I have never heard that. I have never heard that helicopter gunships went looking for Fulani terrorists. Never, ever before. Maybe against Boko Haram, because Boko Haram is killing them. That's all. Now ask yourself why that is the case. Any day you answer that question, believe you me, you will despise the zoo more than I do. These are the things you need to understand. These are the things that you need to know about your stupid one Nigeria. That is why I keep saying, when I see somebody talking, I'm a Nigerian, one Nigeria, believe you me, you are beneath an animal. You are the greatest fool. I can't even stand you. Because you're foolish. Irredeemably foolish. I'm asking you a simple question. Have you ever heard before that Fulani, have you ever heard before that after the attack at Ozuwani, after the attack on the Ebonyi villages, did you hear that the army are now chasing those people that came and killed innocent people? The answer is no. All you do is you lament, you can sit down. When we formed the ESN to stop such rubbish, or some of you idiots were complaining, that you never blame the Fulani for coming to kill your people. No, you won't blame them. Look at Dave Umahi. Talking like a fool. Talking like a fool. Dave Umahi, talking like an idiot. He came out, he said, oh, I love you, Fulani. I'm in love with you, now you have killed my people. I was protecting you. One phone call, the idiot changed his mind and started singing a different tune altogether. They are your so-called leaders. Are these the leaders you will go to war with? Are they going to defend you when the Fulani come killing you? Or when they will come to your village, they are killing us anyway. When they now enter your, are you trusting these idiots to defend you? You call your governors? I'm asking you a simple question. Do you trust them to defend you? The answer is no. There was an attack at Eleme. Fulani came and killed our mothers. Our mothers were protesting at Eleme. In broad daylight, we came and confirmed the vigilante in the township, to Mount Roadblock in the township. These are your leaders, yes? These are the so-called leaders that you have. Shame on all of you.
Ebumane Gente. Edaluli Nenkunu Siwena Nunum Obosi Nketa na Eastern News 24. Beba isiwene weteru nyabu nukuosi. Bastamaki ya bifene menu. Kefi waliku bastamaki ya bifenda weteru nubosi Nketa ni uru akwụkwọ.